Welcome to Feedback Loop.
Welcome back to Feedback Loop.
Welcome back. You stayed in our feedback loop, as requested by Joseph on the former episode.
That is me.
That is him. If that former episode has been released. Otherwise, you came to the first one.
And you're confused.
And you're confused to what we're referring to. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're Feedback Loop Podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Joey.
He's Joseph. Joey.
Joseph.
I called him Joseph.
Either way.
He's Joey. We're talking about music.
Yeah.
Specifically, this week, we're talking about the album Love It, Love It.
By Nana Grizol.
By Nana Grizol.
Nana Grizol.
Nana Grizol. I didn't look up the pronunciation.
You know what? I didn't either. I've just always called them Nana Grizol.
I feel like it has to be Nana, though.
It probably has to be Nana.
Regardless.
Especially, I guess I won't... There's a reason that I think it probably has to be Nana, but it has to do with their second album.
Okay.
So,
well, maybe we can get into that a little bit at the end, or if we come back to revisit them.
But I say Nana.
Nana Grizol.
That's what I do.
Love It, Love It. Before... no, go ahead. Why did you choose this album for the list? You mentioned last time that there was a bit of a personal... Maybe not personal is the right word, but there was a connection that you had with this album.
There is a connection, and it's based on who recommended this album to me, I guess. It's Alyssa, my current girlfriend. We've been together for a long time, like 6+ years at this point. The personal connection deals with kind of subject matter of these songs, which I guess maybe I could get into whenever we get to the songs, but
Sure.
there's just...
Or at the end.
Yeah.
If you want to tie it in.
There's
Give us a
things...
glimpse.
Yeah. There's things in the songs that kind of have to deal with...
Lyrically, you're referring to?
Lyrically, yes. Okay. This, for me, my notes on this album are going to be extremely lyrical.
Yeah.
I think that's
valid.
Because a lot of the music is more generic, I guess. I mean, sure, they have some trumpets in there, which for like an indie pop band, maybe par for the course, but I don't know. May not be. But the music's pretty generic. It's the lyricism that attracts gets me with this album.
Yeah, and I think that's valid. I was considering saying this before you kind of got into it, but I was thinking on the way over here, music is such a fascinating thing because it's widely spread, right? Hundreds, thousands of people have listened to this album before, but it's still a very personal and intimate thing. Every person experiences an album in a different way. And I think it's great that you have a personal connection. I had not heard of this band or this album prior to this. I listened to it. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's good.
But we'll get into...
That's very good.
I didn't like it at first.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't either.
The first 3 times I listened to this album, I was like, I get it. Mm-hmm. It sounds very much like Joey music.
Yeah.
Which I have a question for you that I'll ask at the end. But... it didn't really we'll get to it track by track. My notes were initially taken in kind of that negative light. Not necessarily negative. I wasn't trashing it.
Yeah. But you were skeptical and critical of it, probably.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing.
Yeah. Which is totally understandable.
But I have a different opinion now.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of go through it as I'm reading my notes that to kind of correct myself, I guess, in hindsight. The album art for this album is a bunch of yellow... It's a yellow background. There's some cartoonish animals drawn on it.
All playing instruments. They're in a band.
Yeah, it's not... I don't want to say it's not professionally drawn.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was drawn by someone who isn't an artist as a profession.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe they're a really good artist and this was just their style.
I considered that as well when I was thinking about it. That this could be a very simple aesthetic that somebody wanted and they nailed it. But it kind of looks like someone in maybe like high school without a ton of experience drawing.
Just drew
some animals.
Yeah.
I mean, so on this, you got a bunny playing a guitar.
Yeah.
You got a chicken.
Yeah.
A bird of some sort.
I love the bird on drums.
On the back, on the drums.
He's just holding his hands
holding his
up.
stick straight up.
Like, yeah.
He's ready for it. You have 2 cats standing on top of amps playing trumpets, and they're blowing out the words.
Oh yeah.
Nana Grizol. And then what I haven't mentioned is the second guitarist.
Yeah.
Or bassist. It's it's not easy to distinguish. There are 6 pegs on it,
On both of them.
on both of them,
So
which leads me to believe that there's 2 guitars. But the other guitarist is a dinosaur or some sort of lizard that is
wearing pink
wearing
boots.
pink boots,
Yeah,
pink
man.
socks. It's hard to tell. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a good aesthetic for this album.
It definitely is.
I think it some of the style translates to the music.
Yeah.
I
Very
believe.
simple.
It's very simple, but also interesting. This album is 29 minutes long. It's a very short album. That's
Super short.
It's including a hidden bonus track.
Yeah.
Which I want to ask you about if you had this idea. There's 11 songs on this album, including that bonus track.
Mm-hmm.
I saw online someone, I feel like they were lying. They had to have been lying. I was looking at the lyrics for these songs, and on tracks 8 through 10,
Mm-hmm.
they mention that the track name is off by 1.
It is.
It actually
It
is.
actually is.
So the 11th track is not untitled?
The 11th track is not untitled, but
the way it was
it kind of is untitled, but it's also kind of not.
the way that it was explained to me is that track 10, which is on the list on Wikipedia and also on my music device program, software,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, service,
Yeah.
is the idea is that everything could possibly be said.
Yeah.
This person was saying that was the track 11.
That
That was
is
the title of the 11th track.
it is, but
And then Broken
That's-
Cityscapes was moved up 1,
Yeah.
and then Everything You've Ever Hoped or Worked For, because they were saying that it was the title was named after the previous song.
yes. Because
But what they didn't fill in is what I guess the 8th track title is, and I have printed out in front of me the Wikipedia track listing, and they have it wrong, is what you're saying.
well, they don't have it wrong, but they kind of do. So, this goes back to whenever I first downloaded this album. Track number 8 was called Will We?
Will we?
And that's what it starts off with. The very first lyric is, "Will we ever feel that way again?"
Okay.
And
Yeah.
And that's what it was titled, which is what I thought for the longest time. And all of these were one
Interesting.
down.
Where did you? Was that a non?
It was a non-official.
non-kosher-
It was a non-official
A
source.
bootleg source.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I wonder why everyone has it wrong. I mean, I guess it makes sense because the chorus lyrics are usually the
Yeah.
name of the title falls. Surely someone has a CD
Yeah. But
and they can prove it.
And the thing
Or is
is,
the CD misprinted as well? And also, the 11th track is called Untitled Bonus Track.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a bonus track.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think-
not wrong, I guess.
I think the tribal knowledge is that the track listing is wrong, but I guess the way the band intended it is how this is. So
The band wanted it to be an 11th untitled thing.
I'm
and
guessing-
they didn't want the titles to be shifted.
I'm guessing, but every printing that I've seen that's not on like Spotify or something
Right.
has been the other way.
Huh.
The having tracks misnamed, because it is weird. Track number 8 that is
Right.
Will We also contains the lyric "Everything You Ever Hoped or
Yeah.
Worked For." So
And the same applies for tracks 9 and 10.
yeah,
So my notes are clarified with the track titles that are on my service, which
Yeah.
are incorrect
yeah,
or could be incorrect.
or correct. It's
It's hard to say.
yeah, it's very hard
I
to
saw
say.
that as a point of contention. I wanted to get that out of the way before we started.
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, actually, I mean, maybe it would have been funner.
Yeah.
If you had brought up actually the song.
Yeah.
Mr. Sir. Actually, the song is called Will We.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna write
yeah.
those down here just so when we get to it, I don't forget.
Because if I didn't drop my old iPod in my own coffee on my way to work one day, I would be able to pull it out right now and be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, yeah, this
But
is."
that was
where-
from an unofficial source.
It is. It was.
Which is what bothers me. But
Yeah.
we're not gonna argue about that the whole time. 29 minutes, 11 tracks. The first track is Circles Around the Moon.
Circles around the moon.
The first time I listened to this album, I was not in a good state to listen to this album. I hadn't slept well. I didn't sleep a lot last week in general, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like starting up an MMO to play, and I was like, yeah, we'll put on this album
Yeah.
and just kind of zone out and listen to it. I started it, and I listened to the first 8 seconds of the first track, and I was like, oh, this is something that I think I should like save for another time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to enjoy this a lot. And for reference, I'm going to play the 8 seconds here. I played a bit more. Sorry, I was distracted. I was messing with my sound, my volume. But that was the first 18 seconds.
I was about to say that's longer than 8 seconds.
Yeah, I was distracted. The first 8 seconds have no vocals.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that intro guitar riff, and it sounded like it's kind of indie pop. It's kind of fun. It's jovial. And I was like, I'm gonna give this proper time when I'm not in the mindset that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
To kind of come in fresh and enjoy it. I was in for a rude awakening when I got back to it, because as mentioned previously, I'm picky with vocals. I don't pay attention to lyrics often, but vocal melody is something I'm very picky about for some reason. So I come back to this song, Circles Around the Moon, and you guys heard it. The singer comes in, and it's not clean. It's not pitch perfect.
It is not.
It's very rough, for lack of better words. It's not that this is the first time I've heard vocals like that. It almost sounded like Cage the Elephant. Yeah. At least on their older stuff. It wasn't... It's not quite on. Yeah. It's slightly out of tune kind of a thing. It's not really out of tune, but something feels unprofessional about it.
It's not polished.
It's not at all. It's a very raw vocal thing. Musically, I like this track. Yeah. It's very like indie pop rock kind of thing going on. And it's upbeat. It's fun to dance to. Yeah. But the vocals caught me off guard. And I've grown with this album. Mm-hmm. I listened to it the first 5 times, and I still wasn't really feeling it. And then by about the 10th time, I was just like, yeah, I can groove with it. Definitely. I can put the album on and listen to it and have no qualms about it. And it's part of that is just getting over the vocals. Yeah. Right, saying this is how it's supposed to be. It was designed to be this way. Yeah. Maybe he wanted it to be better if he could sing better or whatever. But for whatever it is, this is the album that they released. Yeah. And I have to get over that. I know I'm picky about vocals. I like a lot of melody. And he sings. That's another issue that I think I have throughout this album is there's not a lot of vocal melody. There's some. Yeah. But not a lot. I mean, we just came off of that Poppy album
where there's a lot
of vocal melodies happening. But that immediately stuck out to me as a sore thumb. Lyrically, to me, I looked up the lyrics to this one again because I'm a dirty pansy that doesn't pay attention to lyrics. I looked them up, and this is the start of, and I guess I'll save some of this till the end, but the song seems like he has moved from a city or to a city from the country. Yes. So he had kind of like a rural start, and then he's like, hey, moving to the city. This was their first album. I don't know if it was his first album.
It was not.
It was not his first album. But to me, it very much felt like I'm out of here, going to a city. I'm making things happen. Yeah. Those were my thoughts on this track.
And you're right. You're spot on. So I will go with the vocals thing.
Are you a fan of them?
I am, but my background into this general type of music. So Theo Hilton, he's the lead vocalist. He was previously in a band called Defiance, Ohio. Sure. They're a very do-it-yourself punk, like folky type band. Where
it makes sense that he would transition to something like this.
Most of the vocals are unpolished. They're more about getting out
a message.
Yeah. And they don't... I mean, they try to sing good, I guess. Yeah. As good as they can to communicate how they're feeling. Sure. But they're not too concerned with polished sounding...
Pop. Yeah, pop. They don't care for what the mainstream media wants.
Yeah. They kind of just sing...
Which in itself is a very punk thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I almost because this is indie pop. There's really not anything punk about it, but whenever I classify it, I classify it.
It has a punk feel.
Yeah.
Just because I guess the vocals are very not clean.
Yeah.
Or not refined.
So he did, and as his previous band was called Defiance, Ohio, it's a town in Ohio. They had an album called Midwestern Minutes. We're Midwest, we're from like a rural town.
Yeah, no one's heard where we came from.
Yeah. And then yes, this song, like something that I wrote is the way he talks about a city is it's a very separate place. It's a very different place, completely new. It's almost like in its own bubble, completely torn off from the rest of the world. And that kind of loneliness and separation that comes with it, like he talks about 1,000 postcards later, we seem older, but that's normal because talking about your town's going on without you, you're going on without your town.
Yeah,
you're still writing back, but
you're aging.
You're changing.
And I think to me, I'm sure this was intended. This whole album kind of has that feel.
Yeah,
he writes a lot about people being distanced.
Yes.
And how that affects them and how he feels about that in certain moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it's a high note. He's like, like in this track, he seems kind of eager to me to get out.
Yeah.
But then later in the album, it kind of feels like he has regrets about it or maybe wishes things had gone differently or kind of misses it.
Yeah.
Kind of wanting that kind of how it used to be.
It's definitely a good lead in because there's hopefulness. There's thinking about, oh, well, the city's this big old place. I mean, one of the opening line is circles around the moon. Is like, why does city life feel so awful? It should be unlawful to live where you can't see the stars.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's very much, and I feel like we live in a fairly rural area.
Yeah.
We live close to a city.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's some merit in that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants a lot of light pollution.
Yeah. And you want to look up and see the stars.
Yeah, it's a human thing.
Yeah.
I think. Granted, it might not be a human thing for people that were born and raised in a city.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the opportunity to do that. But I mean, they are conservatories.
Yeah. And one thing I feel like, and this is probably just me reading into it way too much because I've listened to this album. I listen to this album multiple times every week.
So you have a very deep connection with that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited to talk about this because I don't have intimate knowledge about it and I don't have an intimate connection with it.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on the album are going to be very face level.
Yeah.
And yours are going to be a lot deeper.
Yeah.
Because you have a relationship with it.
Yes. So a theme in this album, like you said, is being separated from people. There's a long distance between you and somebody that you're a friend with, in a relationship with, whatever. One of the things that makes me think it's, I guess, profound about this not being able to see the stars is you can, there's always that saying like, oh, well, if you look up at the stars, no, I'm looking at the same stars. And it's like, if somebody you love is still back in the city, or back in a small town, and you're in the big city, you can't see the stars. You can't see, so you're completely distanced from somebody else.
That's interesting. I didn't pick up on that, but that makes sense.
I don't know if that's
it doesn't matter.
I guess that's true.
It's all interpretation.
If I interpreted it from the album, then I guess it's something.
Yeah, but that is something, and it's something we're discussing now.
Yeah,
which makes it valid.
Yeah, which this kind of leads into
Tambourine in Time.
Yeah, Tambourine in Time.
Track 2.
Used to be my favorite song on this album.
Used to be.
It is no longer. No longer. Not that I
broke up with it.
Yeah, I definitely broke up with it.
You moved away to a city and left it behind.
One thing I do like about this song, it highlights the horns. Because it's a slower song, so there's not really much going on. But in the back, you can hear these kind of nice little horns.
Yeah, it almost... I noted that it kind of feels like it's a slowish, like, 80s or a 70s ballad kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That you'd maybe hear in a movie, like at a prom scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of a thing. It has that feel to it, to me.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it, too.
It's a good feel.
It's just, like... Because I think it's the best kind of love song because it's not necessarily about like romantic love. It's just about like loving another person regardless of what that means.
What that means.
Like,
and this brings up something I glimpsed. I didn't do a lot of research, but the singer is queer.
Yes.
He is homosexual. Well, I don't know if he's homo.
I don't know the exact specifics.
He is a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
He's not a straight man.
He's not straight.
Yes.
and I don't think it's super relevant in this album.
Not in this album, yeah.
Maybe it is. I mean, I'm sure it is to a certain
yeah.
degree.
There's lyrics that you can tell are written from his perspective about another male on this album, but not necessarily anything.
Yeah.
To
it's not super obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have figured it out if I hadn't seen that somewhere. And again, I wasn't researching it. I pulled up the lyrics. I used Genius.com.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of a popular thing to do, and they have the full album, so I can just open up all the songs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I saw it somewhere on there that they labeled him as queer.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's cool. Again, I wrote this down, and I don't know what I was expecting initially. Most of these were written down during my second listen.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote again with the not so great vocals. I expected him to suddenly sing differently for something. However, in this track specifically, it drew me to Hobo Johnson's kind of style of singing, which, and that's kind of what made me step back and give it another good shot, is because I love Hobo Johnson, and he can't sing that great. He has a very it's a spoken word kind of weird thing,
but he can get a message out. He
can get a message out.
Yeah.
And I love it. His 2019 album, The Fall of Hobo Johnson, was my favorite album from last year.
Oh, shit.
Of over everything else that I listened to,
yeah.
That was my favorite album.
Well, that's awesome.
There's a lot there, but we'll talk about that later if we go through that album.
I am glad that connection made you rethink to listen to this album.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going to anyway. That's the point of this podcast, right? Is for us to discover new music that we normally wouldn't listen to. And so I was going to give it as much of a shot as I could. But I thought it was funny that I was taking notes. The second track, I'm like, man, again with these vocals?
Again with these fucking lyrics, man. Or these songs.
The lack
melodies,
of melodies. It's just, it was rough. Something I noted, there's a line, and lyrically, it's like you said, it's like there's a relationship between someone that's maybe not as explicitly romantic as a lot of love songs are. It felt to me kind of like he wanted there to be more, but his whoever he was talking about maybe didn't really want that connection, so they were just friends.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, it happens all the time. People come friend zoning, whatever. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But there's a line there that stuck out to me because I'm a sucker for alliteration, and he says, "A song well sung is a song well sung, so sing."
Yes.
It's fun to say. Yeah. It's fun to hear. And it made me happy.
I have that written down because, so the opening line of this, which kind of leads into your whole will they, won't they, maybe one person wants more. Jump into that water, is it cold or is it hot?
Yeah.
Or is it nothing quite worth mentioning at all? It plays into this, and this is coming from I've listened to every album that he's
the Theo Hilton
been a part of. Yeah. And it's he always has this hint of optimism or just do it because
you don't know what's gonna happen.
You don't know what's gonna happen, so just do it.
Yeah.
Which is a good way to approach a friendship, a relationship, whatever. If you don't put your feelings out there, you don't whatever.
You'll never know if they're reciprocated.
Exactly. And a song well sung is a song well, or a song well sung is a song well sung. So sing is sing your song. Yeah. And because you're the perfect candidate to sing your own song, you're probably sing it as well as you can. Just sing.
Yeah.
Just do it, get it out there. And
yeah, that song has been sung well if you sing it well.
Yeah.
Because you do.
And
it's your song.
If nothing else, you must remember that you're still breathing is so you put it out there, you're still alive, you're still breathing.
Yeah, whether you hate it or everyone else hates it or loves it,
whatever. Just
you're still there.
Exactly.
Keep on moving.
Yeah.
You gotta deal with life that way. There's a lot of wisdom there.
Yeah.
I think, and I think that was also initially a bit of a turnoff. I said, much like the Dan Deacon album, this is a very Joey album. And not to be dismissive of it, but I think towards the end of my notes, I labeled this as hipster music. Which I don't know if it's totally fair, given that it has such a negative connotation. Maybe it's just a negative connotation to me. But I've changed my mind on it. I don't think it's necessarily hipster music. Because I think there's definite wisdom. Whereas initially I was thinking maybe it was like feigned wisdom,
Yeah.
where they just wanted to say something profound without like actually thinking about it. But that was just me being who I was.
Well, which to that point, he kind of does do that. Not necessarily so much on this album. It kind of comes through on this album, but there's a lot of songs where he's like, you can tell he's making a point and he's making it well, but
Right.
he's doing it in this
A very profound way.
yeah, like
Or very
ooh,
obtuse.
Yeah, like I'm using the big words or something.
Yeah.
Which I mean, to get out complex emotions.
It's hard, and
Yeah.
and he touches on that in a later song, I think,
Yeah.
on this album,
Mhm.
that it's hard to like put words to feelings
Yeah.
and stuff, and I think that comes up a couple times actually in the album.
It does, which yeah,
It's true. It's hard. It's hard to express. I'm horrible at songwriting.
oh yeah,
I can make music and a beat, and that's fine. But lyrically, maybe this is because I don't listen to lyrics, but it's hard.
yeah, it's
It is
really
hard to put your thoughts and feelings to word, and not have it sound super cringy or whiny.
Yeah,
Granted, a lot of that's probably self-criticism that
Mhm.
maybe could go without being done, but
yeah. Well, I mean, if anything you write, you're gonna criticize way harder than anybody else would.
yeah, absolutely.
So-
And Theo's gotten over that
Yeah.
clearly.
And before we move on to the next song,
Yeah,
to go with my point of just being happy with another person regardless, which kind of plays into the whole. You said something about like friend zone, which
Yeah.
is just
It's a modern
it's-
stupid label.
Yeah, it's a stupid thing.
but it describes a situation.
There's a line talking about at the end of this song. He's talking about his front porch is his paradise, sitting there every night, and you can sit here by my side. Whatever that implies will be just fine.
Yeah.
It's just being like, okay,
If,
well,
if you want this, great.
Yeah.
If you don't, great.
yeah. If you don't, you're still
We're
a cool
still friends.
person. Yeah. Which that's what I like in a love song. I don't like the
Yeah.
whole. Like,
We broke up, so
Yeah.
like now I hate you,
yeah.
or the
Or
inverse of
I
like
need you
Yeah.
to feel these exact specific feelings about me.
yeah, and that
whatever.
actually ties into an album that maybe I'll add on
Yeah.
the list. There's a song on an album specifically, so maybe we'll just talk about this offline and not do the whole album. That the whole hook of it is saying, "I don't need you, I just want you."
Yeah. I like that.
And that album kind of came to me at like a rough time in my life anyway.
Yeah.
But so it kind of stood out to me more.
Hey,
But
I guess I'll give a little hint as to why this song is so personal.
oh,
So, because this part kind of plays into it.
sure,
So Alyssa is the one who introduced me to this album.
yeah.
Me and her met in 2012.
Jeez.
It is, I know, it's nuts. And we were friends for a while, and then eventually started dating
Yep.
for, it was probably about 6 months. And then kind of just, I was 18.
Yeah.
And I was
Sure.
I hadn't even started working at where we met. I don't
Right.
know if you, like,
I mean, yeah, we worked at a pizza place.
we worked at a pizza place. I hadn't even started working there yet, so I hadn't even met you yet.
Right.
And,
well, we had met in high school.
yeah,
met,
but-
in
yeah.
quotes.
But not,
We weren't friends.
yeah. And it's like, I didn't know who the fuck I was. Like, I was just a person, barely a person.
Sure.
And she was, I think she was either 19 or 20 at the time. So we kind of like realized, like, this isn't going to work.
Right.
We
You guys
gotta,
you still have a lot of growing to do.
yeah. She moved to that city. And she moved away, and we were kind of just like, I mean,
After introducing you to this band.
yeah,
Or to Theo.
it was
Right.
around that time that she.
So
kinda-
she's like, hey, here's this album about someone leaving.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm leaving.
a little bit, but I mean, there was more to it. It was, but
Obviously, because you guys are together.
yeah, yeah.
But
this part kind of made me realize, like, okay, she's still cool. Like what it was.
Yeah.
It kind of helped me get through that.
sure.
I guess, which it relates even more to this whole situation because
Yeah.
she moved. She moved to a city. I stayed in
Right.
the quote
Rural.
unquote rural town.
Yeah.
Where whatever, and we
Yeah.
were both.
I mean, for context, we're like a 30-minute drive from said city,
Yeah,
which
so
isn't super long.
It's not. Yeah,
Like it's easier for us to like make it seem like it's so far away because it kind of is.
yeah.
But
It's a different state, technically.
That's true.
So
that is true. We crossed the state border to get there, but it's like half an hour away.
Yeah, it's not.
Which isn't super far. Like these people that live, in Kansas, hours from the city.
And I hate going there because
the city.
I don't care too much for cities.
Yeah, I feel you.
So it was a really long way away for me because I was like, I'm never going there.
Yeah, and it seems so much farther.
Yeah.
If someone you care about is moving that far.
Yeah.
Right. Because now you can't just hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stinging in that maybe she doesn't even want to hang out all the time.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Like it's just it's a compound thing.
It was
That kind of just gets worse.
Yeah. The more you listen to this album, but then it also gets better the more you listen to this album.
Yeah. Continuing on this album,
Yeah.
track 3, Less Than the Air.
It's a cover song.
It is
But Dave.
by Dave Dondero.
Yep.
I did boopity boop boop.
Yep. Research.
This one is also it's not as slow
Yeah.
as the previous track, but it still kind of has that older feel to it. That I think is just the aesthetic of this album.
Yeah.
It's very simple musically, and I kind of came to that conclusion later. That there's not a lot of crazy stuff happening on the guitar, which makes me feel like it's older music than it really is.
Yeah.
But it works. It's a good vessel for the lyrics. It does. This track in particular has a very strange breakdown in it, where it seems so lyrically the first bit of the song is kind of like depressing.
Yeah.
In a way, it seems to me what I got out of it was that he was being told just get over it.
Yeah.
Like
And the emotional
he's sad.
pain that comes with that, and
Right. And then there's this weird, strange breakdown where it kind of like the song kind of stops in a way and it's quiet, and it seems to me like he had a perspective change at that point where he's like a bit happier about it.
Yeah.
He's just like going on with his life. He's moving on.
Oh, sham shamalingo. Oh,
Yeah.
dip.
He scats a little.
Oh, orange, lemon, lime, and Tangelo.
It's Tangelo, lemon, lime.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what the hell's going on in this song? And then he kind of gets back into it, and it feels a bit happier.
Yeah. Which, that's, like, I don't have too much written down about this song because it's a cover song. He didn't.
Right.
Like, but I do really appreciate
The inclusion.
The inclusion and the way that they were able to take a cover song, a song written by somebody else, and make it such a seamless part of this album.
It fits.
It fits the whole narrative of the album, and somebody else wrote it completely unrelated to them.
Right, and I didn't look into the guy that wrote the original song. I don't know what his style of music is. I didn't listen to the original.
It's a more folky, kind of finger-picked acoustic guitar type thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's definitely a slower version. So, I mean, they changed, like, I didn't know it was a cover song until eventually I ended up finding out about it.
Yeah.
I think I was just
It happens
like...
a lot.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Cake is an example that is personal to me. I love Cake, the band. They're so groovy.
They are.
They do a lot of covers, though. And a lot of songs that you might not like realize initially are covers. Like they do some Frank Sinatra, they do some Willie Nelson. But like, even then, there's other songs that they've done that are covers. So it's sad that the original artist doesn't get the credit for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's just how people are, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the artist's fault. I'm not trying to blame Cake for saying that they don't explicitly call it out. But like the normal listener isn't going to be able. They're not going to look into it.
Yeah.
They're going to hear the song,
be like,
by
I
the
like
artist, and say, "Oh, that's cool. I like that song."
Yeah.
It's now associated with that artist.
And then when they tell their friends, they're going to be like, "Oh, I like I Will Survive by Cake."
Right. Right. And they're like, "You mean that Gloria Gaynor song
What?
from like the '70s? Get out of here." But yeah, it's an interesting inclusion, and I think it fits.
Yeah.
For sure. Now we get to my favorite track of the album. Is this your favorite track
It's
as well?
not my favorite song or track, but I love this song.
The song is Motion in the Ocean. I really like this song. It's by this point in the album, even initially, I kind of got into the zone of what this album was, and maybe that helped a bit, but it's a very chill, like, groovy track. And it's interesting to me because the syllables he uses don't really flow well, I think, with the song, but somehow it kind of works.
Yeah.
It like it sounds like he's butchering singing his line, but it all kind of comes together.
It's the motion of the ocean.
The motion of the ocean.
It's choppy.
And there's a bit of like metaphor in this, and I kind of dissected it a little bit from my personal perspective. He makes a claim that he's a clam, like clams are just harvested
Yeah.
for your pearls by like a fisherman that maybe doesn't even know what he's got going on.
Yeah.
So I wrote down, to me the song is about putting your perspective into something small, being a clam only to be harvested for the pearl. And the ocean is oftentimes, not specifically on this album,
Yeah.
the ocean's often compared to like the space.
Huge. Yeah.
Vastness. It's a void, or it's just something so big. So to me it felt more like he was like feeling super minuscule and unimportant.
Yes.
And maybe even used by a fisherman that could be, the industry, that could be whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't put that much thought into who the fisherman is.
I like
but
that you said
it's
that.
kind of what I got out of that.
I didn't necessarily. Oh wait, I did, because
You did what?
I wrote down that the thing he said about being a small part of the world, like
Yeah.
the whole world is moving,
Yeah.
and you're just a small part of it. Like that, I get that a lot from this song too, and other songs on this album. But I don't know, like where he's talking about pearls grow from the pain inside.
Yeah.
We also know so well. And that's just, it's a good, I kind of break this album down into three,
Arcs.
like an arc. And it's like
Acts,
the first
maybe.
4 songs are like the first act of like, okay, there's pain, like emotional distress. You're moving in the first song, dealing with potentially somebody not loving you the way that they are, like you're just far away from that person,
Yeah.
or wanting to reconnect or whatever.
You don't have a
Yeah.
lot of connections.
Yeah.
to anyone.
And I feel like he, like in this song especially, he's hitting a point where he's feeling like he's a small part of this world and kind of almost coming to accept it
Yeah.
and make it not such a bad thing.
So it's interesting that you say that, because in the same song, I have a couple sections. I took more notes on the song than any other song, I think, because I like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a line that he says, "My songs about contentment so far always end in verbs like drive or run or go to sleep. The damage has been done." And to me, that seems like he's acknowledging, maybe I looked a bit too far into this, but it seems to me that he was acknowledging how subconsciously he knows he's not happy
Yeah.
by ending things in verbs, by saying like, yeah, I'm fine, but
Yeah.
I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. And it seems like he's not actually happy, despite maybe thinking he's content, or writing about his contentness. And it kind of gets covered again in the next section of the song, where he mentions covering up his true thoughts by using sarcastic puns.
Yeah.
Or just kind of shoving it off and like making light of it. And I think that's very relatable.
Yeah.
It's very easy to say that you're okay and say that you're fine and content and happy with where you are, but also have this kind of nagging like inner feeling that you should be elsewhere.
Yeah.
That you maybe don't fit in.
Or even to make fun of negative emotions that you have.
Play them off.
It's like the whole whatever the meme whatever about like making jokes about like I wish I was dead. Not necessarily to that extreme,
Right.
But
It happens.
it's
People joke about killing themselves, and they shouldn't.
Yeah. People joke about negative emotions all the time as a way to play it off, and it's like that's kind of just, you're just masking it. You
Right.
need to deal with it
Yeah.
rather than.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's totally.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt about the middle section of the song, was kind of him like accepting that like he knows that he's not necessarily happy, or wasn't at the time, and kind of accepting like he's not,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, even though he says he is. The last section of the song, I'm not really sure how it all ties into it, but he talks about an angel taking off their wings and like dreaming of hell,
Yeah.
or something, which makes me think if he wouldn't have used angel, I wouldn't have pulled a religious sense into it, but it seems very similar to on the Poppy album, the track Blood Money, where it seems like someone who thinks they're doing good or someone who acts good in the public. So they're an angel by day. While they're out in the world, they act good and wholesome.
Yeah.
But maybe when they're alone, they're not really sure what they think.
Yeah.
And the song ends on like, I don't remember the lyrics specifically. I probably should have written them down. But something about not being sure or being undecided or indecisive about what they actually think of their dreams of hell or what that means to them.
Yeah. And I think that goes more into, that's a good observation. It goes along with other songs on other albums by him. I mean, he grew up in the Midwest, and he's a gay, queer, bisexual. I don't
Right.
100% know, but
He's a non-straight
yeah,
male.
he is a non-straight male, which is not a great thing to be
Yeah.
if you're not in certain places. And he has other songs talking about.
Especially back then. This album was, what, 2008?
This album was 2008,
So.
and I think he was in his early 20s at that time. So
Yeah,
And-
not a great situation.
yeah, and he, according to other songs, he knew, it's not like he didn't know for a while.
Right.
Like he knew and had to.
He accepted it
Yeah.
early.
Man, there's a song on their third album that it's like, not that I've ever had any negative anything against anybody who wasn't straight, but it's like he wrote a song on his third album that like made me feel like I could feel
Yeah.
how somebody in that situation would feel, and it was just like
eye-opening.
Yeah, it was like a revolutionary thing for me. And
Yeah.
I was just like,
I mean, so,
I
like,
knew it sucked, but
You mentioned
Jesus.
never having specific, like, negative feelings towards gay people or whatever, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like, when we're young,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, A, there's a lot of peer pressure involved.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
B,
yeah.
like, there were things like we would use gay as an insult.
Yeah, like
Which
I
it
would
was just casual. We
Yeah.
weren't meaning it necessarily to be like, haha, it's funny because you're gay.
Yeah.
But the word gay was just
Yeah.
a slur.
Yeah, it was the worst.
It
It was
was
the
an
worst
insult.
thing you could be called as a wanting to at least be straight
Yeah.
man in high school
Right.
or whatever.
And the fact that, and we get this now having wisdom and
Yeah.
insight that it is hurtful
Yeah,
to people to call someone else gay as an insult.
yeah,
But I mean, we're growing.
yeah. And
As a
just
society, we're
yeah.
growing. So,
man,
like,
this is completely off topic,
It's
but
fine.
it just made me
We got time.
realize. I was outside of the other pizza place
Yeah.
where Alyssa worked.
yeah.
And I was like talking to her or something. I've always worn. I'm not necessarily usually most of the time I'm just wearing black, but then there's
Right.
times where I'm like, whatever, I'll put on a pink tank top as I did that day.
Yeah.
I was standing out in the parking lot talking to Alyssa.
I think I remember. I think
Yeah,
I can visualize that pink tank top.
I ripped it in half one day because I was mad or something. Like I don't have it anymore. But so I was standing out there talking to her, and these like dudes, like I can't say the stereotypical. They're I guess quote unquote like redneck dudes with their lifted truck that shoots black
Sure,
smoke, whatever. We're driving by, and this is a word I guess I'm not gonna repeat what they called me, but out of their car as they're driving through the parking lot, yell a word
Yeah.
that starts with the letter F
Right.
at me, and I was just like I was unaffected by it because at
Yeah,
this point
that's how Joey was.
at this point I didn't care if I was like maybe 16 or 15 or whatever, maybe I would have cared that some
Yeah.
random, but like I didn't care. But then it was just a moment for me where I was like,
Like, wait a minute.
some people have to fucking deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm secure in myself to like not care, but like what if you're like a 14-year-old
Yeah.
just trying to figure out
That destroys you.
Yeah, you're like just trying to figure out your life, and then some dudes
and
just drive by and they're like,
I
"Oh,
will confess, I have been that guy.
really?
I have.
Oh shit!"
And it was there were. I'm not gonna like make it pretty and say, well, in my defense,
Yeah.
there's no defense for it.
Yeah.
I was a shitty person. I think we've all been shitty people.
I've never been a shitty person in my life.
Joey's been perfect since day one. I've been a shitty person, specifically in like high school and middle school.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could say I was dealing with my mom dying, whatever. That's bullshit. I wasn't. But I was definitely that person. There's one person in specific that I know I was very cruel to.
Yeah.
And I feel bad about it now.
Yeah.
Especially because there are other people that will look back on that time as fun.
Yeah.
That I still talk to.
They won't have gotten.
They haven't figured it out.
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah.
And we're way off topic now.
Yeah.
Now we're just like social justice podcast. We're gonna bring it back in for this album. Don't hate on people because of who they love.
Yeah.
It's
or just who they are,
or who they are,
whatever.
how they dress, what they look like.
You don't know what they're going through.
You don't know what they're going through. But you gotta love people. You gotta take care of them because at the end of the day, they're people. You know, they have feelings. The next track on this album is Voices Echo Down the Halls. There are 2 tracks on this album, notably, that have the, and for emphasis, it's THEE.
Yeah.
They've added an extra E to the song title.
Very regal.
And it's weird to me because I think they mention the lyrics in the songs and they don't say the, they say the.
The.
So I'm not sure if you have context as to why they use the.
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Like, I've always wondered, but I don't know for a fact.
Yeah, Voices Echo Down the Halls. It's to me, what I picked up, I didn't get a lot musically. This point in the album, I kind of checked out the first time I listened when I wrote these, and I should have come back to it and wrote more notes. But I said this track doesn't really stand out to me outside of the brass.
Yeah,
there's a strong brass section in it.
Yeah, it's a very nice intro with the trumpets.
Yeah,
like it, and I had mentioned. I think I mentioned something about this on last week's podcast about them being sort of a super group or whatever. Which they're not a super group, and like the Eagles are the super group,
right?
But they're just formed like Theo was in Defiance, Ohio. Their trumpet player on this album, which is
Laura Carter.
Laura Carter. She was in Neutral Milk Hotel, which
is a band I haven't listened to.
Yeah,
they're a big band. I've heard of them.
They're a big indie band. Like they wrote like the seminal indie record that came out in the 90s.
Interesting.
But yeah, so that's
we'll have to listen to them.
We definitely will. But yeah, so they got a good trumpet player. This song, I like it because it starts off, voices echo down the halls, we're leaning against walls.
Yeah.
How long do you suppose till this one falls? It makes me think he's using like a house party kind of as...
Yeah, I was thinking college dorm, but yeah.
Yeah, kind of like as an allegory for like a long-term or long-distance relationship.
Yeah.
Or just, I guess, maybe any friendship relationship in general.
I actually didn't get a romantic sense from this song.
Yeah.
I did note that it seems like it's just a goodbye song to a friend that is moving away. Which is something that's interesting because so much of this album is about moving. Whether it's him moving to a city or someone else moving to another city.
Yeah.
It comes up a lot, and it makes me kind of, not necessarily confused, but it makes me wonder... a lot of times when he's using the royal you, if he's referring to himself by saying you, or if he's actually referring to a specific person in his past. And it's kind of hard to tell that in some situations.
That's something I've wondered too, because there's so many songs where he's, not necessarily on this album, but like on other albums, where he's talking almost through other people.
Right.
But then he has very personal songs, so I never know.
Yeah, it's something I noticed that like there are a couple songs at least towards the end that I wasn't sure if he was being self-reflective and using you as a way to kind of dissociate himself.
Yeah.
Or if he was just talking about himself in general, or if he was talking about another specific person, which it's open to interpretation. I think.
Yeah, and one thing, I feel like I just cut you off.
No, I was rambling.
So there's 2 lyrics that stand out to me in this song that makes me think it's about, I guess, long distance friendship would be more in Theo's style, because he has a ton of songs about friendship.
Yeah.
And just like, I say relationship, but I don't necessarily mean romantic relationship.
Sure.
But we could just stand right here and smile. That'll only entertain us for a short while.
Right.
Talking about like,
What's the next step?
yeah, you can be surface level acquaintances for a little while, but it's like that's only going to get you so far. That's all.
Right.
That. What are you doing?
It seems like he has another goal in mind.
And then
maybe.
Why is everything like that so concrete when that's the same stuff under your feet that connects where you're standing to the place you'd rather be?
Yeah.
Which, that's what really makes me think it's long distance, talking about there's somebody, or I guess it could even be people who are talking to you in person, but they're not present.
Right.
They're thinking about being somewhere. Yeah. Which, that's, like, I guess there's no concrete answers for what this is about, but I don't know. It
seems like a farewell.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal.
And this album was so hard to write notes on because I have listened to it for so long and never had to think about.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel things when I listen to this album, and
that's how I feel about some of the albums I've added to our list as well. I'm kind of not looking forward to dissecting it.
This was very hard because like most of my notes are like complete stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Just like
because I mean you were feeling things. You have a very intimate story that ties into this music.
Yeah.
And those feelings can't necessarily be put into words. They just you related to them at a time, and you still relate them to that time.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to put that into words.
Yeah, it is not easy. I don't understand how Theo does this, because it seems like he's taking a lot of hard, complex emotions and somehow putting them into a song.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, I think some of it's kind of a bit metaphorical and like abstract, but a lot of it makes sense, and it's relatable to I think a lot of people who's pretty much anyone who's had a friend that is no longer a friend.
Yeah.
Like it's just that simple, but he puts it in words that are so meaningful, and it doesn't come off as that simple. He captures the complexity of everything that means.
Yeah.
To him specifically, but it's something that everyone I think can relate to.
Which something, not to drag just this song on, because I got...
No, I pulled Motion in the Ocean on for as long as possible.
We haven't even hit my actual favorite song on this album.
We're halfway through the album at this point.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the halfway point.
But, like, he does a good job of, like, he paints a picture of, like, a specific moment.
Yeah.
But then relates it to an actual, like, idea of an emotion.
Sure.
Which I like it because it can kind of put you in that moment and be like... Especially with him being, like, talking about being from a more rural area. It's like, he talks about sitting out on a porch. Like,
we have porches.
That's all I used to do when I was younger. Like, sit on a porch and just think.
See the world.
You know? And it's like, I can picture being in that thing, like that exact situation.
However, you have not moved to a city.
I have not moved to a city. I've never done... I did for a little, like, a few... weeks maybe.
Oh wow!
In a college dorm, and then immediately came back.
Yeah. I think I remember that.
Yeah, I was gone for maybe 2 weeks.
Maybe, but yeah, interesting. Next track.
Stop and Smell the Roses.
The Roses. I wrote again. This one doesn't really stand out to me.
Yeah.
It's and this is where it clicked that there's very simple arrangements. Yeah. There's not a lot of progression to a lot of the songs musically.
Yeah.
And I noted that I put this note the second time I listened to it. I said, probably will have a different perspective once I listen through the lyrics, or with lyrics. And to that extent, it's still not one of my favorite songs on the album. It's still kind of in that middle, like, okay, whatever album feel of part of the album to me. But it seems like someone he knew left whatever town he was in to make it big, or to start over new, and it feels, and this is one of those things where I'm not sure he's talking about himself or he's talking about someone else, but it feels like he's kind of mocking them for leaving and saying, oh no, I'm gonna go over here and it's gonna be great and I'm gonna have nothing to do with you. And he kind of like towards the end of the song it seems like he's just saying like, chill out.
Stop and smell the roses.
Stop and smell the roses. Like you got what you wanted. You moved away. You ran away from the situation. Enjoy your life.
Yeah. And there's an opening line in this. It kind of, I don't know, I guess, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to say this.
Try to collect your thoughts.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding like a douche.
Just say it.
I've lived
It's a personal thing.
a pretty much, I wouldn't say entitled, but like I've lived a fortunate life.
Yeah, we are upper middle class.
Yeah, exactly.
All our lives.
I have never had, at least growing up, I never had a moment where I was like, I knew my parents were worried about like, oh, what, like, how are we gonna get food, or how are we gonna whatever.
I think I had a little bit of that at certain points, but I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, you were able to not.
We're very privileged.
Yeah,
for sure.
And there's an opening line in this, not to say that we're not fortunate to be born to a world that encourages us to grow, but sometimes perpetual motion moves so slow. It kind of makes me think that he maybe had a life that generally, in the grand scheme of things, you could consider like, oh, that wasn't so bad, but then maybe feeling guilty about complaining about things because of that.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling that I've had.
It's white guilt, you know? It's very much
it's like I've lived this life that other people would kill to have.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here complaining about like, oh.
But it's not invalid. I mean,
exactly.
Everyone has grievances, first world problems, you know, whatever. Granted, I'm not saying you should whine about your phone not working the way you want it to.
Yeah.
But we're all human.
Yeah.
We all have very real emotions and feelings. I think your dog also has very real emotions.
Oh my god, she is.
We're shuffling Joey's dog around, trying to please her, but it seems like there is no pleasing her. So bear with us while if it seems kind of scattered. But yeah, I mean everyone has issues. Everyone, even people. I'm not gonna say especially people, but there's a different kind of common issue in more privileged society. And that's parents not necessarily being great.
Yeah.
Not necessarily giving their children the attention that they want or need because they're busy doing other things. Right?
Yeah.
They're busy providing for the family, which obviously happens even in more perverse areas of poverty. Perverse. I don't know if that's a word. It sounded like I said perverse.
I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah.
In more poverty-stricken areas, obviously, like, those parents have to work twice as hard as our parents do. But there's still this weird, like, I feel like there's a lot, and maybe it's just in this area, there's a lot of not great relationships between parents and children.
Yeah.
Whereas these kids get older, they're not necessarily rebelling against their parents. I mean, every kid does that to some degree. But there's a clear disconnect where, like, I hate my dad or I hate my mom. Not the case for me.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's the case for you.
No.
But I feel like it's a fairly common thing in like where around where we live.
Yeah. Which with them being from the Midwest, rural, whatever, like that seems to be a common thing. And you're just bored. You don't have a lot of stuff to do.
It's true.
We
don't have anything exciting where we live.
Like we
have to drive half an hour to a city to do something.
Or driving is your activity. That's what I like. You
absolutely.
Just drive
Man,
around.
Is that therapeutic?
Yeah.
Like that's something like people who live in cities that don't have driver's license. I understand it.
I don't.
But well, I mean, like I understand it logistically.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I can see it.
But man, driving around, especially when you're a teenager at night.
Yeah.
And just with no destination, you just drive around, put on some music.
Some good music.
And just fucking cruise.
Yeah.
And I said fucking.
I said like shit and douche and.
I mean, well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're not PG.
I self-censored the other F word.
It's true. You did, which I think is valid.
I think it's valid because not to.
I mean, everyone knows what it is, but.
Not to get back on this horse, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm just.
You can't say it's.
It's a mean word. Fuck isn't a mean word.
That's true.
Like
that's true. We're if anything on this podcast we're trying to be as inclusive as possible because that's how we discover things. It's how we grow as people and as music listeners.
Oh yeah.
I think that like in this album, I went into it and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about my vocals, and there's not a lot of great vocals in this album. And instead of just saying, "Oh, I don't like that," I'm done. I forced myself to listen to it, and it grew on me because it's not about sounding clean and crisp and on tune or having a lot of vocal talent.
Yeah.
It's more about what is said than how it is said.
Yeah.
In the scenario, and I think that's valid. I think there are cases where how it is said is more important to the music. Maybe not more important, but as important. And just like I think it's who a person is that is more important than how they look or what they think.
Yeah, definitely.
Just being a human gives you a certain amount of respect that is demanded.
Yeah.
I think.
You're another person who can think just as well as I can.
Yeah.
Why should I not?
Why should I invalidate whatever you're saying?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Tiny Rainbows.
Tiny Rainbows. This is probably my second favorite song on the album.
This is my favorite song
on
the album.
I figured it was. I don't know. I really like the way this album ends. I like the rest of this album.
It is, yeah.
Tracks 5 and 6, not so great in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the rest of this album finishes strong.
If I had to pick the two weakest tracks, I would pick these.
These
Which
tracks.
they're still good songs in their own right.
Yeah.
It's just compared to the rest of this album.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're-
And that's something I noted. This song has a better progression throughout it. And it's like a bell curve almost, where it starts out kind of chill.
Yeah.
And then towards the middle, it gets louder, and he even screams.
Yeah.
Like he's screaming words at the middle, and then it kind of calms down again.
Yeah.
It's very much like a bell curve.
I was just playing. Whenever you said screams, I
Yeah,
was just playing it in my head,
yeah.
and I got This song gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it.
It's a very good song.
I've listened to it hundreds of times, and it still does it. But it's like, and it's just such. This song is probably the strongest personal connection I have with this album, because like it's talking about the beginning. It's talking about a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
Talking about an iceberg that the person you love doesn't reciprocate it, or you just feel like you both realize we can't do this.
Yeah,
And-
it's about love lost.
Yeah, and you have to separate. It's realizing that no, I have to be me for a while, which was the exact situation that me and Alyssa had. It's like we need
To figure yourself out.
we need to be separate people for a while.
Yeah.
And talking about he's dreaming all this about he's a ship hitting an iceberg.
Yep.
And it's sinking. And as we crashed, I could read the relief on your lips, which is just a line that's like...
It hits.
Yeah, because you realize,
It hits hard.
it's such a shitty situation.
Yeah.
But you can see the other person slightly be like,
Thank
okay.
God. Thank God it's over.
It had to happen. Thank God it's over.
And it's so hard to because it's self-criticism almost. If you're seeing that, you're like, wow, this person really doesn't like me. Mm-hmm. And that hurts.
Yeah. But...
especially when you don't necessarily know why.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was the case for you or Theo, but that's all. That's a general relationship thing, right?
Yeah.
If someone breaks up with you, breakups aren't easy for anyone, I don't think. Both sides are usually harmed.
Yeah.
In quotes, but it's being able to see the other person have that relief.
Yeah.
Stings so much more than the actual breakup, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And then seeing them just because you need to be separate people.
Yeah.
But then seeing that happen is also
it's a different thing.
Yeah, it's because you're just okay, well you are just
now
living.
it's real.
Yeah, you're just living a life. And it's I'm living a life too, and that's fine, but I don't have to think about me doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so it goes from that to what I think is such a great message and something that kind of helped me get through that.
Yeah, so I actually noted this, and I don't know if it's the same line. I actually quoted it in my notes. The more that we share, I guess the more that we grow.
Yes.
That stands out to me.
It is a great...
It's a good lyric. It's a good line. Because it's fucking true.
Yeah.
Right? You have to share things to grow.
Yeah.
You can't be so secluded and inwardly focused on yourself and still expect to have good things. You need, to some degree, some socialization, but more so a connection,
Yeah.
or at least someone to talk to.
Yeah.
If that's the limit of your sharing, is just saying something.
Yeah.
But you need it.
You definitely need it.
Otherwise, you're never going to change.
Yes. And I just, that whole part from, and light blended better than our bodies ever could. And until the more that we share, I guess the more that we grow and we all became tiny rainbows, is just, that's the part, it's just, it's about realizing that, like you said, you need to share to grow with other people. And we can all learn things from other people.
Yeah.
The part that gets me is, we're made of flesh and or wood. Yeah, we weren't the same color, but we knew that we could be.
Yeah.
We were ourselves, but blended at the edges like we should be.
Yeah.
Like, realizing that you can still be yourself and gather...
have someone else.
Yeah, you can have someone else. You can gather experiences from other people.
Yeah.
And now separated, our colors still shine on my sleeves. Like, talking about, okay, and even when we're separate, you still made an impact on me. That you can... A visible impact on me. You are now part of my personality.
Absolutely.
Like, I am a new person because of this experience or this person. And it's just realizing that, like, hey, we can all do this together, and we're all just the only good things can come from everybody.
Yeah.
Being together, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
so fucking true.
Fuck, man.
It's very real. That's Theo's optimism coming in. Even in the song where he's clearly like heartbroken.
Yeah.
He's putting a dash of optimism in there.
Yeah.
He's saying, you know what? This was a good experience.
Yeah.
This is good for me, it's good for society, it's good for everyone.
And like this song, I don't want to overinflate it. Like,
it's a good song.
It is a great
It's your favorite track. It's my second favorite track on this album.
Like,
I listened to it on the way over here.
Yeah. It was like a turning point in my life almost. Not necessarily like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that's
right.
A lifestyle I'm going to adopt.
Yeah, but it had an impact.
Yeah. And over time, that's how I think about things now. It's like just, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to whatever. Yeah. And I'm not going to be upset when it ends or if it ends or whatever.
Yeah, it's time back to the beginning of the album. You know, you gotta jump in.
Yeah.
You have to try things.
Yeah.
Regardless of how they're going to end, you need to do it. You maybe don't have to. You should.
You should do it.
100% of the time, you should take that chance. You should see.
Yeah.
And it's good to share, and it's good to, like, you never know what someone else is thinking, ever. Yeah, ever. Even if they tell you.
Yeah.
Which that's a real big issue, I think.
Yeah.
But most people will be honest with you if you seek that honesty from them. Mm-hmm. And it helps to share how you feel first, because then it's more even footing.
Yeah.
Right? They're more likely to reciprocate that sharing. Whether the feeling is reciprocated, who can say? Yeah. But if you don't speak up, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing, because then you'll have all these ideas in your mind of what they think, and you'll eat yourself alive.
And that's what makes people hate each other.
That's what makes people hate each other. Yeah. Man. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Good meaning.
Oh yeah.
I like it. And I think that song specifically, along with Motion in the Ocean, kind of helped turn this album around for me. It's kind of like, well, there are two gems amongst all of this, at the very least. I need to, like, put in some time and service the other ones fairly and say, like, this is what they are. Granted, I know I like tracks 5 and 6 better than I led you to believe.
Yeah.
They just don't stand out, and I didn't have time to go back to my notes on those songs.
No, I totally feel that, because they're kind of... They're not filler songs by any means.
Right.
But, like you said, like, standing up to the rest of this album, I think...
Yeah, it's a weird middle point in the album.
Yeah.
Where, like, you talk about the structure of an album, and you have to have strong opening songs to get people interested. Mm-hmm. And you have to have a strong finish, so people, when they've listened to it, remember the good parts. The middle part of an album is usually where it kind of falls apart in a lot of cases. Not saying that this album necessarily fell apart, but the middle of the album didn't feel as strong as the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Anyway, for what that's worth. On to the next track. The 8th track, Everything You Ever Hoped or Worked For, is what I've written. The original title is
Will We? Or the unofficial title, I guess?
Unofficial / Yeah, that's what was throwing me off, is that, like, the person that suggested they changed didn't propose what the original title was for the 8th track. So I was like, okay, that's just kind of a cap then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was something that confused me, because I noticed this song was Will We, and I was like, okay, those are the first 2 words of the song.
Sure.
Obviously, that's the title. And then it had track 9, which is Broken Cityscapes, as Everything You Ever Hoped or Worked For. And I was like, wait a second, that's weird. And then they kept, like, going down.
Yeah.
And then I heard track 10, and it was like Broken Cityscapes, and I was like, wait a second, that should have been the last song.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating that happened.
Yeah. And it was like...
Or how it happened.
Because... when the first time I listened to this album must have been end of 2012.
Sure.
And at the time on the internet, I would look it up and everybody's like, yeah, those are the names of the songs. Like, that's just how it is. I was like, that can't be right. But I guess it was right, and then now it's not right.
That's pretty much how I felt. I was very confused about it all. Track 8, Will We? I like the song.
Yeah. And I like the way it starts, because it's like, will we ever feel that way again? Talking about the person that they just separated from, it's like, will we ever feel that closeness, that connection again? Will it happen? I don't know.
It's continuing his train of thought as he is, moving away. He's ending these relationships.
Yeah.
Or they're ending themselves. And it's a very reflective album.
Definitely.
I think lyrically, and I like it. Musically, the song's also pretty interesting to me, I think. But I was so critical. My original note says, continuing the trend of being more interesting than tracks 5 and 6.
Oh, shit.
Like, I didn't hate them, but, like, tracks 5 and 6 were the blandest track possible.
Well, because, I mean, if you didn't originally like the album... If I didn't like this album and I was listening to it, there's no way I would make it through 5 and 6. Like,
yeah, they just kind of sort of sounding samey.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Tiny Rainbows came and saved it, and this song, Will We, continues that trend of being good music.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I stuck it out. I'm glad that we're doing this podcast, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, like, I just like the way it continues the
saga.
Yeah, the saga of, okay, it's ended now, and what's going on.
What does that mean?
Like, one of us is gone from the other one in a different place.
Yeah.
Like,
and how do you process that? That's what I think a lot of this album is so relatable, because he is processing things at every point in like relationships. He's taking a step back and really giving it an analysis.
Yeah.
And how he's feeling in that moment, which is hard to do, as we've stated.
And I mean, the lyric with the title in it, the past few years they've been pretty weird. And sure, I left because I was bored, or maybe scared of what it means when something little comes between you and everything you've ever hoped or worked for.
Yeah.
It's talking about, well, sure, I left because I was bored. Like, I don't know, it almost seems like it could be a defense mechanism.
Sure.
Of like, oh yeah, well I just left because I was bored. I don't even know if he's talking from his own perspective here.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Who left? Like, I guess he did. I have to take his word for it, but it's like, I don't know. He left town because he was bored, because he's from a Midwestern town where there's nothing to do. Maybe he left that town because he was bored, but he also had to leave behind somebody. And it also calls back to the previous track where I'm like, neither of them wanted it to end.
Right.
But somebody had to leave to go do their own thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, is he calling the relationship or friendship the little thing that almost came between everything he ever hoped to work for?
Yeah, and that's hard.
Yeah.
So if you have these big plans for yourself, you don't want to be held back by someone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to consider their feelings.
Yeah.
At least to some degree. Like, yeah, I'm going to go on and do this, but where does that leave you and your friends?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that leave you and your family, and in anything, really? Like, it's a hard thing to do.
which I've never done it, so I can't even comment. Like,
yeah, no, I haven't either.
I've been right here my whole life.
Yeah,
I've never.
But I mean, like even maybe not like a specific location, like a physical location, just doing something against somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
Right. We're very good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not gonna like stop my life because of you.
Yeah,
Joey.
I would hope not.
but if something happens where like we had to end this podcast,
Yeah.
and like if I move away, like I have to consider this.
I'd be
and
a sad boy.
I'll have to reflect on it. I'll be sad as well. I really enjoy doing this.
Yes.
And I think this is good. I'm glad we started this
Me
show.
too. Me too.
This is good fun.
To the one person out there who's listening.
To the one person who's listening. This is good fun. But yeah, good track.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too.
I like the rest of this album. I've already said it.
Definitely, yeah. And I'll get to it when we get to the untitled track. I was about to just start on a whole new thing.
Okay,
But
we'll get there. Before we get there, we're at Broken Cityscapes.
Yeah.
Not
What-
Broken Cityscapes.
every
Formerly Broken Cityscapes. Everything you ever hoped to work for.
Whichever one it is, one of those two.
It is the 9th track.
Track number 9
Track
on this
number
album.
9.
This kind of links back to Circles Around the Moon, where I said that he kind of paints a city as a completely
Yes.
separate place.
Yep.
Which it is, but he's talking.
But more than a physical place, a mental place,
Yeah.
an emotional place.
Exactly.
There's a big disconnect.
And I feel like he's got a different take on it in this song.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
he's talking about actually being able to be introspective in the hustle and bustle. Like, I feel like in the first song, he's like fresh out of a small town or whatever. And he's
there's
like,
a lot of excitement.
yeah, and he's like, "What's going on? Like, I can't even see the stars here. Like, what's happening?" And in this song, he's talking about laying on a rooftop, just thinking to yourself.
It's like he's been there for a while
Yeah.
now, or at least enough time to kind of decompress and say, okay, like let's take an inventory of everything that I'm feeling now.
Yeah.
I've had this last X amount of time where it's just been so like busy.
Yeah.
Emotionally, mentally. Let's take a step back and like make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. And it becomes very introspective, and it feels like he's processing the disconnect at this point, where he's like maybe not totally happy with it, or has regrets about how things ended.
Yeah.
Musically, it's a very like light song. There's no drums in it.
Yeah.
That I noticed. It has some light kind of keys and bells. There's some acoustic guitar. It sounded like there may be a banjo plucking a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is, because they use all sorts of weird instruments.
I mean, not that a banjo's that weird.
Yeah.
You have a banjo.
I do have a banjo, but I mean, like, weird for indie bedroom pop, whatever this would be classified as.
There's even some humming, I think I picked up on.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, non-aggressive song.
Yeah.
It's very, like, light is the best word I can think of in the moment to describe it. There's not a ton of noise going on in this song.
It's a song maybe people in the city could just gather around and play on a rooftop or something.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I would listen to the song on the rooftop in the city.
I definitely would.
It's a good song.
And this song, which is something that you wouldn't have any reference for because this is the only album by then you've ever listened to, he brings in, I don't know, talking about if you could ever believe that something in you is still alive, being interested, thinking about, yeah, you were sad, but like I said earlier, like you're still breathing.
You're a person.
Yeah, you're still breathing, and if you can't see the beauty, just don't give up so easily. Talking about keep trying.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be an easy experience.
Yeah, and like he's, I don't want to say bashing cynicism, but like kind of talking against like, why would you be cynical? There's so much.
Yeah, there's so much good.
Yeah, there's so much good. There's so much left to learn. There's so much left to experience. You don't know everything. Like, how can you act like, oh,
this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
Life.
I
This
know.
is all life has to offer.
Yeah.
It'll never get any better, which I think is a very common mindset.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily of people our age, but definitely, I feel like a lot of friends, as I've grown up in like high school and stuff, there was a lot of depression.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of kids that maybe weren't, clinically depressed per se,
Yeah.
but that's a time in life where I think everyone is starting to like feel the weight of the world, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get better.
Yeah. You feel defeated. Maybe it's not necessarily depression, like you said, but
I mean, it's depression,
yeah,
but maybe not clinical, like prescription level depression.
Not like you
Right.
need to take.
It's a healthy depression.
Yeah.
For whatever that means.
Yeah. But like, yeah, and just the reason I tied it into other songs is he has other songs where he's talking about. He has another song called "Cynicism" on another album where he's just like, why?
Why bother? Why care?
But yeah, it's a nice little light song.
I like it.
Right
like
before the official end, because the untitled track at the end, I feel like there's a placement for that song in this album. Like
that is not at the end.
That is not at the end.
Interesting. So then you are suggesting that the final song on the album should be Broken Cityscapes, formerly titled by me as The Idea That Everything Could Possibly Be Said.
Yes.
It's another ballady kind of slow jam. I got some fuzzy guitar to it, which was interesting. He does sing a bit more in this track, I noted.
Yeah.
There's a bit more melody going on. This one, lyrically, is yet again kind of continuing the trend of being about distancing or moving away.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit more optimistic, saying that like I'll come back. I want our friendship, our relationship to continue to some degree, and I can come back and we'll talk about it and we'll still be friends.
Yeah.
Despite me moving away and doing other things for myself, I don't hate you. I don't want things to end. I'm ready to accept that like I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when.
And it could even be better because we have both lived separate lives and had new experiences.
You're wiser from that.
Yeah. We can talk about them and then we'll laugh about, I don't know, the idea that everything could possibly ever be said is a good fitting song title to me because once you're in a relationship, a friendship, whatever, for so long, you start to feel like you're telling the same stories.
Yeah.
Like me and Alyssa, like, I'll tell her something and she can finish it because she's like, you told me that already. Yeah. And it's like, he's talking about, well, we're going to have all these new experiences and we'll come back and we'll laugh that we ever thought that, like,
we were done.
Yeah, we talked about everything. It's like, no, you just lost perspective on what you could talk about.
Yeah.
Because you're stuck in the same.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think. And instead of seeing it as being stale, like, because kind of, again, like, saying fuck you to cynics or cynicism in general, like, you just need perspective.
Yeah.
You can't assume you have all of the knowledge that you will ever have, because it's not true. You need to take a step back, relocate yourself if need be, and kind of reassess life.
Yeah.
And get a different perspective and come back, and then there's still so much more that you can be discussing or doing. Because it's crazy how people grow.
Yeah. And that's something I think he does, which the whole metaphor about being two seeds blown apart to different places in the front yard.
Yeah.
And you'll grow up the fence and then you'll intertwine.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. It's just with trees, because you're different places and you're growing, and then eventually you're going to come back together.
Yeah.
And it's just great. He talks about growth and personal growth away from each other, with each other, on his own. I feel like he just does that so well, which growth is something that, like, I don't know, it's something that kind of blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah.
Whenever I think about, there's totally times where I sit back and I think, like, not, because I mean, I'll reference this because of the fact that it, like, this whole album kind of got me in a headspace where I could not get over Alyssa or whatever whenever we broke up the first time, but it kind of got me
more okay with yourself.
Yeah, more okay with myself. And it got me to a point where I, like, could have this experience with her.
Yeah.
Where it was like, okay, I'm just gonna.
This is me moving away.
Yeah.
And we're growing back together.
Exactly. And it was like, it felt natural. And it was just, I don't know, this album, it just put a lot of things in perspective for me. The whole growth aspect theme of this album really worked well with me and helped me grow. I guess.
Sure.
It's
every that's the thing, like every moment you're alive, you're growing in some way. Whether it's a healthy growth of, finding something new or getting a new perspective or gaining new knowledge or gaining wisdom, or if it's along a rut that you've carved for yourself, which isn't a good thing.
Yeah.
You're growing.
Yeah.
If at the very least you're growing physically.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting closer to death for whatever that means. Usually you're having a change of perspective at all points in time.
Yeah.
It's just not something that you're aware of because you're so in it.
Yeah.
Right? But you'll look back and say, last year even, I was a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
Or I did something so stupid, or man, I thought this way, and that's not how I feel at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even over the course of me listening to this album, right?
Yeah.
I went in with it, and I wasn't feeling it. I couldn't get over the vocals. There was nothing for me there.
Yeah.
But I gave it time, and I thought about it more,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew to like this album.
So great.
It is great.
I'm really, I guess I shouldn't say I'm relieved that you liked this album, but I kind of thought that maybe
I wouldn't like
you wouldn't like it.
And it's fair.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's a very Joey album, and I can say that because I have this perception in my head of what music you like.
Yeah.
And you have the same about me, presumably. And everyone has a perspective, or they have an idea of how someone would react to certain things.
Yeah.
This is very much an album that on paper I would not like, especially not, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, however long ago. There was a time in my life where I would have laughed at you and said, this music fucking sucks. You're horrible. You're a hipster for finding joy in this. You're just doing it to be ironic,
That just, it made me think back to another band that I will put on here. On our list.
Should we discuss this after we finish this album?
Well, it's just a story about you calling that band a hipster band.
Yes, I think we're going to the same place. We'll get there. Before we get there, Untitled, the hidden track, the bonus track, that is not actually untitled, it seems. The ideas and everything could possibly be said. To me, it didn't flow. I mean, first off, for context, there's about a minute of silence after the 10th track, which is why it's an untitled bonus track or a hidden track or whatever you want to call it. It's very raw. Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's a demo of a song that they didn't have time or didn't care enough to
I think
finish.
It is.
Which makes sense why it's at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think it's the official end of the album. I think
so
track
explain
10 is the official end.
Where would this track go in this album?
I think it would honestly, if it were a finished song, would either come. I think it would go right after Broken Cityscapes, track number 9.
Sure. So before the penultimate song.
Yeah. Which I'm glad they didn't put it there, but I think story-wise it would go there. Because it's talking about, I drove home for the first time in 2 weeks today, and where is home? Talking about, well, I've been living at this place for
That's true.
Is that my home? Is this my home?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that it's good to be at the end because in track 10, he's pretty much saying, I'm going to come home.
That's true.
And we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then this is the act of him doing it, not just saying he's going to do it, but coming back and being excited to be home.
Yeah, that's true.
On the way home.
That's actually a very good point.
So, either way, it's a bonus track.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it was on the original album. I guess bonus track isn't the right word.
Yeah.
But it's a demo.
Yeah.
I noted, even in my early notes, I'd be interested to hear the finished track.
Yeah.
I want it to be finished just so I have a better perspective on what it should have been. But it happens. Bands don't finish everything they write, whether they fall out of love with a song or they just don't have time or they lose the inspiration, whatever. It happens. I don't slight artists for doing it. Demos are demos, and it's a fun bonus nugget, right? When you get to hear something that's maybe not in a releasable form, that's not polished or produced. I think it's a cool trend.
I love that stuff.
It's really cool. B-sides, all sorts of that stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'm about it.
they have a whole album of that type of stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, you're probably not.
I mean,
because
it's very raw and not produced.
I think you'll have to listen to all of his other albums before you would listen to that album.
Yeah. So recapping this album, I like it as an album. I like it a lot more than I did going into this. The music is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of fancy music going on. There is a brass section.
Yeah.
That I think is a cool inclusion. There's some twanging guitars. There's not a lot of vocal melody. Stuff that I've already kind of touched on throughout this. It's a very bittersweet album. I think bittersweet is the one-word descriptor for this album.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's a lot of sad, but there's also optimism.
Yeah.
And I think this album to you feels very similar to how that Hobo Johnson album feels to me.
Probably.
And that there's... I guess I can't even really say that because I'm a sucker for sad songs.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Hobo Johnson's newest album has a few very sad songs on there.
Yeah.
And while I don't necessarily put myself in his shoes and say, oh, like I just broke up with someone or like I'm having, but he has a lot of very real thoughts that I've had or have currently or whatever that it just hits.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how this album feels to you.
Definitely.
Maybe not in current time.
Yeah.
But when you experienced this album,
it was definitely that.
It was a very heartfelt thing.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you on the sad song thing.
Yeah, I love sad songs.
They're just so much better than any other type of song.
Because I don't know if this is because it's easier to relate to sadness or if it's easier to put sadness to words well or if we're just fucked up. But like there's something that's so good about hearing a sad song. It has such power. For me.
It's such you listen to music to feel an emotion.
Yeah.
And I feel like sadness is like the most powerful emotion.
It's a very strong emotion.
And it's a good one to evoke out of people. It's a relatable emotion. Everybody's felt extreme sadness. Most people have felt, I guess. Yeah. Most people have felt. Probably
I'd
everybody.
Say everyone, yeah.
Like
at some point.
Maybe when you're
maybe
young.
not Sam Riegel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know.
I'm sure he has. I mean, he was in New York on 9/11. He probably had some sort of.
I guess that's very fair. He doesn't give off that vibe.
Yeah, he does not. But like, in happy songs, there's no context for them.
Yeah, you're just happy.
It's
just it's a very one note thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very specific it's specifically vague.
Yeah.
And that they all kind of hit the same points.
Yeah.
They're all like, yeah, I'm happy. Ha.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no purpose behind it.
Yeah.
There's no feeling behind it really.
Yeah, and that happiness, the happiness that is portrayed in happy songs is such a one-dimensional feeling.
Yes.
Because
it's flat.
Yeah, because it's just like, ooh, happy. What the only real happiness that can actually move you comes from sadness, so it almost has to be a bittersweet happiness.
That is very true. And I think this album does that well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think he is completely satisfied and happy at the end of it with everything in his life? No. Yeah. He has regrets.
Yeah.
But, like, it's a very bittersweet album
that
I think handles setting up the scenario of him moving away and having these feelings and thoughts and then coming back and sharing that kind of thing. Music's good.
It is.
That's why I think that's why I enjoy this is like being able to talk to somebody about music.
Yeah.
Getting specific as song tracks and as vague and general as just music.
Yeah.
And emotions. Yeah. Sad songs fucking rock.
They are. Oh my god, they're so good. And Alyssa doesn't think this way. Her mom doesn't think. They're like happy songs and this and this.
I can't do it.
I like the poppy song and like that's fine. Like, do that, but I don't know. I don't want to dismiss it and be like, that's not as deep of an emotion.
I mean,
but it
feels that way.
It feels that way.
Yeah.
That is how I feel.
And maybe this is just a mental thing because so much of pop music is happy.
Yeah.
And pop music is kind of an insult.
Yeah.
Right? there's this stigma about happy pop music just being generic and not being meaningful, not having a lot of thought behind it, being overproduced or being manufactured in such a way that we kind of maybe instantly do dismiss kind of someone that enjoys happy music.
Yeah.
Which it's hard to say if it's because of that stigma or because there's not a good way to capture happiness in music, or at least not without the context of sadness, like you said.
Yeah.
Because it's a relative thing, right? You can't have one without experiencing the other. Yeah. You'll never actually be happy if you've never been sad.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think that way. Which, I mean, calling way back to the beginning, whenever you were talking about people in like first world problems where people are I think that is an issue.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate first world problem, is to have so much stuff just taken care of that you become like complacent, which almost forces you to become
less genuous.
Yeah,
maybe.
And it's like if you're happy all the time, then happiness becomes your new normal, and then even happiness is
it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
That's why people shove McDonald's in their face.
No, they shove McDonald's in their face because it tastes delicious, Joey.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Not a sponsor at all.
Never.
We're not sponsored. Yeah. We're not getting sponsored.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Unless you want to.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you want to sponsor us, so that all three of our listeners can hear our plugs for you, hit us up. We got socials now.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I have a question for you, and this ties into what we were talking about. That I think we were going to the same place. I specifically remember a song that you had played when we used to have board game days here. I think it happened at some point. I was in a car with you, and you played a song. And the only thing I remember about the song is, I guess, the chorus, where a man very similar sounding to this, if not the same person, very similar style of music and singing, says, "Urine speaks louder than words."
That's not him.
That's not him.
But
that was my question.
That's part of the grand rabbit hole that I'm going to take you down.
Please enlighten me, Joey.
That's Pat the Bunny.
Pat the Bunny.
Pat the Bunny.
I remember this was not a huge time difference ago, but probably like 3 or 4, maybe even 5. I don't have a great scale of time. Gosh, maybe even longer than that.
Was it when we were working at the pizza place?
I don't know. I feel like it was. It had to have been around 2015, 2014. Yeah. Which, depending on which one of those years it is, determines where I was, because I had a data entry job that I hated.
Yeah.
At some point. But I think we were all in your car. We went to, like, a pizza place that neither of us worked at to get pizza. And that song, we were on our way back or something to play board games and eat pizza. Because board games are fun.
They are fun.
We need to have more board game days
we do.
again. It's a shame that we don't do that anymore as often. Anyway,
but
yeah, that song that instantly, like when I heard his vocals, I'm like, this is that same motherfucker. Like, and back then I hated it.
Yeah,
and I still kind of like.
That's the reason it's part of the journey, is because you have to get.
Yeah.
Although that's what I was originally introduced to. I heard that before I heard this.
Right. Interesting.
But it's like.
Really? Then it had to have been. Well, I guess that's not true. I heard it after you had heard this.
Yeah. I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. We know what we're saying. We're just saying to each other.
Yeah. But we know.
Not super compelling to a listener, but we understand what's going on. We understand each other at this point. So how does Pat the Bunny tie into this rabbit hole?
Okay. So, you know how I said Theo was in Defiance, Ohio?
Yes.
Which was like a DIY folk punk band.
Sure.
Pat the Bunny's kind of like the sage of all of that.
Really?
He's
like the Godfather?
He's like the intro level DIY. Okay. Well, I guess I wouldn't say intro level, because most people would probably be turned away by his music.
Is he the most prominent example?
Yes. He's probably the most well-known example of that type of music.
And, I mean, it was your gateway.
Yeah. But I also heard it at a really fucked up time in my life, which is...
Okay.
Yeah. which a lot of his songs, especially because he's been in a few bands. He has solo stuff. He was with, originally, I guess, Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains, which I don't know how much I want to go into this, but his whole music discography is a great arc to listen to about addiction, battling with your own thoughts, anti-government, political, whatever, and then kind of coming to terms with all that, and then entering society at the end of it, because he doesn't make music anymore. He is officially put out a statement that's like, I'm
done.
I'm done. My personal ideals don't line up with the type of music that I was making anymore. I have to do my own thing and whatever. Like,
that makes sense.
But it's kind of crazy to hear the first album and then
the last album.
Where you're just like,
where's the journey?
Yeah, but it's
interesting.
So
maybe someday we'll get there.
Yeah, maybe someday.
I don't think we need to talk about that now.
Yeah. And it's definitely, it wouldn't be for a while until we got there. So
yeah, we have a lot on our list right now. And if you're listening to this, feel free to suggest things as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will be as enriching if one of us doesn't have a personal recommendation or experience with it. But we'll find out. We'll test the waters. We'll see what people do. We also maybe bring in guests at some point and have them recommend things. So if you're around here, then you probably know us. If you're hearing this and you're around here, the overlap is probably pretty large that you know us.
Yeah, the two first names probably give it away.
So if you're listening to this and you're interested in being a guest, let us know. We'll work something out. Next week's album, we have decided on The Regrets' "Feel Your Feelings, Fool."
Yes.
Which is something that I relate this album to musically. I say this album, the Nana Grizol album, I relate musically to The Regrets because there's kind of a bit of an indie punk pop feel to it. So that's the album we're going to be listening to this week. If you guys want to listen along and share your feelings, feel your feelings, fool, do so. We have social media handles now.
Ooh.
I should have written this out beforehand. We have a Facebook page, which is Feedback Loop Podcast. We have a Twitter account. We have an Instagram. We have a YouTube. Apparently, I got logged out of the stuff. Let's see here. It's asking me. It's at FBL Podcast on Twitter. On Instagram, I think it's the same. Let me double check that. If not, search Feedback Loop on Instagram. We got a SoundCloud. We got YouTube. Just search Feedback Loop Podcast, maybe. And we'll figure it out.
Yeah, if it's not Feedback Loop, it'll probably be Feedback Loop Podcast.
Yeah, currently we don't have an icon.
Yeah.
A banner. Maybe by the time we release this, we do. I don't know if this is episode 1 or if we're gonna save it and get our shit together before releasing this.
This might just be practice. Who knows?
Might just be practice, but we'll release this at some point.
Yeah.
I feel like these conversations are good.
Yeah.
It might be harder to piece together our phone audios from the previous ones, but this one we're recording on a singular mic. Into a laptop because we're getting our shit together slowly but surely.
We're professionals now.
We're not making money, so we're not professionals.
We're amateurs, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting it together. So find us on social medias, tweet us, comment on our YouTube, all sorts of that stuff. Until next time, as Joey so succinctly put it,
stay in our feedback loop.
Stay in our feedback loop. I love it. It's great.
It was something I said.
It was something he said. That's how we're signing this off now. We're out.
Bye.